reading How to Love God. You want to start, Ravi, if you're okay?
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
go ahead.
Avtar Meher Baba ki Jai. How to love God. To love God in the most practical way is to love our fellow beings. If we feel for others in the same way as we feel for our own dear ones, we love God. If instead of seeing faults in others, we look within ourselves, we are loving God. If instead of robbing others to help ourselves, we rob ourselves to help others, we are loving God. If we suffer in the suffering of others and feel happy in the happiness of others, we are loving God. If instead of worrying over our own misfortunes, we think of ourselves more fortunate than many, many others, we are loving God. If we endure our lot with patience and contentment, accepting it as His will, we are loving God. If we understand and feel that the greatest act of devotion and worship to God is not to hurt or harm any of His beings, we are loving God. To love God as He ought to be loved, we must live for God and die for God, knowing that the goal of all life is to love God and find Him as our own self. Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai.
God Meher Baba ki Jai. Thank you. So we are in on the theme of love, and we are on the chapter called Love, and I think we are halfway because we were not able to get to the whole get through the whole reading last time. So how about we actually read from the beginning so that there is it's a very nice chapter, so we can just a couple of pages. So I suggest that we read all the way. Hello, Norm. Jai Baba.
Jai
You're on
Baba, how are
mute.
you?
Keep
Namita
that
You're
ji.
on
smile
mute.
going.
You're on mute.
On mute. Jai Baba, everyone. I'm good.
Jai Baba.
I was going to suggest last night that you should come on the call this morning. So I think telepathically it worked.
Baba instructed.
Yes, I'm very happy you made it. Good. So let's start by reading. Why don't you read, Norm? You rarely read. You want to read?
Okay, I will read. Yeah.
Very nice. So you are going to love the chapter we're going to read. We're starting again on the 2 pages that we read last time on love. So we
Let me know when
stopped.
to start.
Yeah, I'll tell you. So we stopped um, here, but I suggest that we quickly, without too many pauses, unless we need some discussion, we'll start from the beginning so that it's logically complete. Yeah. Okay. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Over to you.
L-
You can read.
Uh, love. Life and love are inseparable from each other. Where there's life, there's love. Even in the most rudimentary consciousness is always trying to burst out its limitations and experience some kind of unity with other forms. Through each form, though each form is separate from other forms, in reality, they are all forms of the same unity of life. The latest sense for this hidden inner reality indirectly makes itself felt even in the world of illusion through the attraction that one form has for another form. This is under a paragraph Love Pervades Universe. The law of gravitation which all planets and the stars are subject to, is in its own way a dim reflection of the love that pervades every part of the universe. Even the forces of repulsion are in truth expressions of love, since things are repelled from each other because they are more powerfully attracted to some other things. Repulsion is a negative consequence of positive attraction. Experienced by most homes these days, the forces the forces of cohesion and affinity which prevail in the very constitution of matter are positive expressions of love. A striking example of love at this level is found in the attraction the magnet exercises for iron. All these forms of love are the lowest type since they are necessarily conditioned by the rudimentary consciousness in which they appear. In the animal world, love becomes more explicit in the form of conscious impulses that are directed towards different objects in the surroundings. The love is instinctive and it makes the form of gratifying different desires through the appropriation of suitable objects. When a tiger sees to devour a deer, it is in a very real sense in love with the deer. Sexual attraction is another form of love at this level. All the expressions of love at this stage have one thing in common, namely, they all seek to satisfy some bodily impulse or desire through the object of love. Human love is more is much higher than all the lower forms of love because human beings have fully developed consciousness. Though human love is continuous with the lower subhuman forms of love, in one way it is different from them. For henceforth its operations have to be carried on side by side with the new factor which is reason. Some, Sometimes human love manifests itself as a force that is divorced from reason and runs parallel to it. Sometimes it manifests itself as a force that gets mixed up with the reason and comes into conflict with it. Finally, it expresses itself as a constituent of the harmonized whole where love and reason have been balanced and fused into an integral unity. Thus, human love can enter into three types of combinations with the reason. In the first type, the spheres of thought and the spheres of love are kept as separate as possible. That is, the sphere of love is practically inaccessible to the operation of reason, and love is allowed little or no access to the sphere of thought. Complete separation between these two aspects of spirit is, of course, never possible. But when there is an alternate functioning of love and reason oscillating in their predominance, we have love that is unilluminated by reason or reason unenlivened by love. In the second type, love and reason are both simultaneously operative, but they do not work in harmony with each other. Though this conflict creates confusion, it is necessary phase in the evolution of the higher state where there is a real synthesis of love and reason. In the third type of love, this synthesis between love and reason is an accomplished fact with the result that both love and reason are so completely transformed that they precipitate the emergence of new level of consciousness that compared to the normal human consciousness is best described as superconsciousness. Human love makes its appearance in the matrix of ego consciousness, which has countless desires. Love is colored by these factors in many ways, just as we get an ever changing variety of designs in a kaleidoscope by the various combinations of simpler elements, we find an almost limitless qualitative variety in the range of love owing to novel combinations of factors. And just as there are infinite shades of color in different flowers, there are diverse, delicate differences in human love. Human love is encircled by a number of obstructive factors such as infatuation, lust, greed, anger, and jealousy. In one sense, even these obstructive factors are either forms of lower love or inevitable side results of these lower forms of love. Infatuation, lust, and greed might be looked upon as perverted and lower forms of love. In, in infatuation, a person is enamored by a sensual object. In lust, he develops a craving for sensations in relation to it. And in greed, he desires to possess it. Of these three forms of lower love, greed has a tendency to extend from the original object to the means of obtaining it. Thus, a person becomes greedy for money or power or fame, which can be instruments of possessing the different objects that are craved. Anger and jealousy come into existence when these lower forms of love are thwarted or threatened to be thwarted. These lower forms of love, enemy of the higher. These lower forms of love obstruct the release of pure love. The stream of love can never become clear and steady until it is disentangled from these limiting and perverting forms of lower love. The lower forms are the enemy of the higher. If consciousness is caught in the rhythm of lower, it cannot emancipate, emancipate itself from the self created ruts, finding it, finding it difficult to get out of them and advance further. Thus, the lower forms of love continue to interfere with the development of the higher form and have to be given up in order to allow for the untrammeled appearance of the higher forms of love. Love and infatuation. The emergence of higher love from the shell of lower love is helped by the constant exercise of discrimination. Therefore, love has to be carefully distinguished from the obstructive factors of infatuation, lust, greed, and anger. In infatuation, the person is a passive victim of the spell of conceived attraction for the object. In love, there is an active appreciation of the intrinsic worth of the object of love. Love is also different from lust. In lust, there is reliance upon a sensual object and consequent spiritual subordination of oneself to it, whereas love puts one into direct and coordinate relationship with reality behind the form. Therefore, lust is experienced as being heavy, and love is being experienced as being light. In lust, there is a narrowing down of life, and in love, there is an expansion of being. To have loved someone is like adding another life to your own. Your life is as it were, multiplied, and you virtually live in two centers. If you love the whole world, you vicariously live in the whole world. But in lust, there is an ebbing down of life and a general sense of hopeless dependence upon the form regarded as another. Thus, in lust, there is the accentuation of separateness and suffering, while in love, there is the feeling of unity and joy. Lust is dispassion, love is restoration.
That's this dissipation.
Dissipation, sorry. Lust is a craving of the senses. Love is the expression of the spirit. Lust seeks fulfillment, but love experiences fulfillment. In lust, there is excitement, and in love, there is tranquility. Love is equally different from greed. Greed is possessiveness in all its gross and subtle forms. It seeks to appropriate person and gross objects, as well as such abstract and intangible things as fame and power. In love, the annexation of another person to one's individual life is one of the questions. And there is a free and creative outpouring that enlivens and replenishes the being of the beloved independently of any expectations for the self. We have the paradox that greed which seeks the appropriation of another object, in fact leads to the opposite result of bringing the self under the tutelage of the object. Whereas love, which aims at giving away the self to the object, in fact leads to a spiritual incorporation of the beloved in the very being of the love. In greed, the self tries to possess the object, but is itself possessed by the object. In love, the self offers itself to the beloved without any reservations. But in that very set, it finds that it has included the beloved in its own being. Infatuation, lust, and greed constitute a spiritual malady which in often which is often rendered more virulent by the aggravating symptoms of anger and jealousy. Pure love, in sharp con- contradiction, is the bloom of spiritual perfection. Human love is so tethered by these limiting conditions that the spontaneous appearance of pure love from within becomes impossible. So, when such pure love arises in the aspirant, is always a gift. Pure love arises in the heart of an aspirant in response to the descent of the grace from the perfect Master. When pure love is first received as a gift of the Master, it becomes lodged in the consciousness of the aspirant like a seed in favorable soil. And in the course of time, the seed develops into a plant and then into a full grown tree. The descent of grace of the Master is conditioned, however, by the preliminary spiritual pre- preparation of the aspirant. This preliminary preparation for grace is never complete until the aspirant has built into his spiritual makeup some divine attributes. For example, when a person avoids backbiting and thinks more of the good points of in other people than of their bad points, and when can practice supreme tolerance and desires good for others even at cost to himself, he is ready to receive the grace of the Master. One of the greatest obstacles hindering this spiritual preparedness of the aspirant is worry. When, with supreme effort, this obstacle of worry is overcome, a way is paid for the cultivation of the divine attributes that constitute the spiritual preparation of the disciple. As soon as the disciple is ready, the grace of Master descends. For the Master, who is the ocean of divine love, is always on the lookout for the soul in whom his grace will fructify. The kind of love that is awakened by the grace of Master is a rare privilege. The mother who is willing to sacrifice all and to die for her child, and the martyr who is prepared to give up his very life for his country, are indeed supremely noble, but they have not necessarily tasted this pure love born from the grace of the Master. Even the great yogis who sit in the caves and on mountain tops are completely absorbed in deep samadhi, meditative trance, do not necessarily have this precious love. Come, Dina. Pure love awakened through the grace of the Master is more valuable than any other stimulus that may be utilized by the aspirant. Such love not only combines in itself the merits of all the disciples, but excels them all in its efficacy to lead the aspirant to the goal. When this love is born, the aspirant has only one desire, and that is to be united with the divine beloved. Such pure love excels all disciplines. Such withdrawals of consciousness from all other desires leads to infinite purity. Therefore, nothing purifies the aspirant more completely than his love. The aspirant is always willing to offer everything for the divine beloved, and no sacrifice is too difficult for him. All his thoughts are turned away from the self and come to be exclusively centered on the divine beloved. Through the intensity of these ever growing, through the intensity of this ever growing love, he eventually breaks through the shackles of the self and becomes united with the beloved. This is the consummation of love. When love has thus found the fusion, it it has become divine. Divine love is
Yeah.
qualitatively different
So
from.
just to pause you there. So that's where we stopped last time. So we see the progression from gravitation being an expression of love, not just gravitation, but even repulsion, physical gravitation and physical repulsion. And the progression is now got us to pure love, right? And pure love is also defined. We in the journey we also saw lust, we saw infatuation, we saw the animal love, we saw how the instinct based love of animals and so on, right? So I think it was good to recap. Now we can slow down and do one para at a time and discuss. Any comments before we continue?
It's so
Comments
beautiful.
not.
It is so beautifully written, and the progression is so clear and vivid. You can see, for us Baba lovers, you can, you can distinguish the grain from the chaff. You know what is the correct thing to do, because he so nicely breaks the, even jealousy, he says, is love, but it's another form. So it also gives us a roadmap, as in, uh, of course, with Baba's grace, to naturally uh, reach that level of selfless love for the divine. But it also makes us aware of things that are not as valuable as love for the divinity, or being one with Baba is.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So now let's go to divine love and human love. That's the next subtitle. So, oh, uh,
Jai Baba, I have a comment out here.
yeah,
I think to just add on to what you said, as I've said earlier, it's not about love because love is in the air. What are the things that we need to work on is basically the ego. And the ego has all these different attributes like infatuation, lust, greed, anger, jealousy. And that is something it's very clear out here that the gift of pure love will not descend into the aspirant unless these five things are taken care of. And also, he has talking about the four different spiritual attributes: no backbiting, looking at the good points of others, supreme tolerance, and happiness of others. And also, I've added two more like worry and fear, like you call the seven deadly sins. So the point of the matter here is it's not about love. It is about dissolving the ego, which prevents us from having this descent of pure love from the perfect master. Jai Baba.
Okay, Baba.
yeah, I think you made that point last
Yeah.
week as well. Very important, right? Going from reading something to inferring it to suitability and exact application to what we want to do. So, how do you get to this? Get to this by dissolution of the ego. Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for that reminder.
Thank you. So should I go on?
Yeah, yeah. Please, if you're tired, we can rotate. We have others to read as well.
No, no, I'm not tired. I'm enjoying it. And but whenever anyone wants to read, you can let me know.
Please. So
Uh,
please.
I have a suggestion. Nomita, just slow down,
Yeah.
speak,
Now,
don't speak so fast. Okay,
okay.
no, no.
speak very
So come
distinctly and slowly.
Okay.
correct. And Kama, this was because we were doing a recap. This was all what we read last time. Now she'll slow down. So it's almost one sentence at a time, and we discuss after every para. So go ahead, Nom.
Divine love and human love. Human love leads to innumerable complications and tangles, but divine love
No, you'll have
leads.
to start from divine love. Divine love is
Okay,
qualitatively different. Yeah, yeah.
all right. So the heading of the para is divine love and human love. Divine love is qualitatively different from human love. I can't read what is in the corner.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm trying to fix that. And I'm
The,
struggling.
the purple thing on top.
It is written human. It is written
Yeah,
human.
human,
So you
human,
can read as
human.
human and go ahead. Yeah.
Human love is
Human love is for the many in the one, and divine love is for the one in the many. Human love leads to innumerable complications and tangles, but divine love leads to integration and freedom. In divine love, the personal and impersonal aspects are equally balanced. In human love, the two aspects are in alternating ascendancy. When the personal note is predominant in human love, it leads to utter blindness to the intrinsic worth of the other forms. When, as in the sense of duty, love is predominantly impersonal, it often makes one cold, rigid, and mechanical. A sense of duty comes to the individual as an external constraint on behavior. But in divine love, there is unrestrained freedom and unbounded spontaneity. Human love, in its personal and impersonal aspects, is limited. Divine love, with its infusion of the personal and the impersonal aspects, is infinite in being and expression. Any discussions, any feedback?
Jai
Deva.
Baba, I have a question here for the forum. I think everybody, if you could give more color on what is personal love and impersonal love and what is being indicated out here. Jai Baba.
Any takers?
so personal love is actually I'm not very sure of what is impersonal love.
Yeah.
Personal love is
Personal,
obviously, yeah. Go ahead, Sanjay ji.
yeah. Personal love is love for an individual, the form. It is just that. It is personal love at a human level is attached to the form. You just love that one person blindly. Uh, in the earlier sentence, you have that highlighted. Human love is for many in the one, and divine love is for the one in the many. So the human love is the first kind. That is personal love. It
Personal love
leads
is
to utter
for
blindness to the intrinsic worth of other forms because you are just so focused to that form. That's what I think. Okay, Baba.
I think in my view, I think it's more than form. So you're already crossed that part. Maybe it's not focused on the form, but it's focused on that particular personality or that soul or that particular person more than in general. Impersonal, I would believe, is the first hint of selflessness where you're able to go beyond specifics of individuals and start loving the everything other than your own ego, right? So the complement of your ego, you're able to give love to, right? One minus myself, I give love to everyone, right? So that is what I think is impersonal. That's still different from human love. You've still not transcended to full human love. Ravi, your comments. Ashish, your comments.
Let me take a shot, okay?
Yeah.
So we are comparing personal and impersonal aspects of love. So before coming to Baba, I love my wife, I love my father, I love my mother, I love my friend, I love so and so person. There's always some strings attached to that, personal interest to that. That means I don't love others as much as I love these particular people. I have self-interest in this particular set of people. That's more like a personal love. There should be something connected if at all I love any person, there should be something connected, my own self, identity, not identity, interest for that person. That's more personal love. Impersonal love is you just love. You love your father, you love your mother, you love everybody, and you love your neighbor, anybody that you don't even know. You have that love for, that's more divine love, irrespective of whether you have interest or no interest. So the difference between impersonal and personal is more connected with the interest, personal interest. That's what I think. Jai Baba.
Oh, my understanding, just to clarify, and Kama, please come in and clarify even more. My understanding is it goes like this: human has personal and impersonal, and beyond that is divine love. So impersonal love is not divine love, is my understanding. Kama, please clarify.
Jai
If you're
Baba, what I've
talking, you're on.
understood about impersonal love is that form of cultivated love. For example, you really don't love your job. It's like the job is there and you do it well. I love my family. I had an arranged marriage. I don't love my wife, but I love her because I've got through this arranged marriage. It's my duty to love her. So that is an example of impersonal love, which is what I have understood. That it's a form of cultivated love where you're really not from the heart, but from the mind, because it's a duty or responsibility. So that is a form of impersonal love that I've understood. And coming to ordinary human love and divine love, so the intermediary stage is the pure love. So if I've understood God Speaks and Discourses or Baba's messages, the pure love starts probably during the planes of involution, because that's where you see the mass in different planes, first plane, second plane, third plane, and so on. So that pure love starts to, kind of increase in terms of moving towards divine love, because divine love is the ultimate, the seventh plane, where in God realization you get, or Nirvikalpa Samadhi, you get divine love. Not even in nirvana, because nirvana is just first stage of fana, where you experience bliss, no sanskaras. And also we know in ordinary mukti or liberation, sanskaras are there, but you get mukti or liberation and you experience bliss. So the pure love that we are all talking about is basically is something that comes probably in the planes of involution. So that's a different matter by itself. But impersonal love is something that I also need to do some research, because it's a really something that can be very relative in terms of each person's experience. Jai Baba.
So just
I
as a
think
comment to what you said, I don't agree with that. It's almost what you're saying is obligatory affection for job, obligatory or the constraints of society that create some sort of love. That's not love to start with, is what I would say. I mean, we have already transcended that from, the instinct based love and all of that, and come to human love. So I don't know, maybe is it non persons being the
Yeah,
object of love?
I think maybe sympathy. We may have some
Yeah.
sympathy for the other people. Maybe we may have some we're well wishers, right? For many people, we're well wishers, even though
Correct.
we know them, we don't know them. Not even my neighbors, but someone
Yeah.
I don't know. Like someone is doing farming, but I'm well wisher for him.
Yeah.
So
Correct.
that may
Correct.
be the
That's what
part
I
of
think is impersonal. Correct. Correct.
Unnamed,
I think
unnamed, or
impersonal is in general we think, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Sar. Sabka bhala ho.
ah,
Let everybody be happy. Let everybody be
yes,
healthy and wealthy and well-being,
yes.
thinking of everybody. So that is my impersonal love. And if that is, I think, between when it becomes divine, then it becomes for all forms and everything. And then you're not, it is not connected to the people. It is just purely flows through you. The divine love. That's what I think. Yeah.
Okay,
Personal is for people
Jai Baba.
specific.
Yeah, Jai Baba, I just looked at the definition. Probably you guys are right, because it says impersonality means not to be selfishly attached to others, but to love them for their good rather than for one's own. It means thinking not what can I get out of others, but what can I give to them. So, so there is like a thing in the Google thing. What is the difference between interpersonal and impersonal relationships? Interpersonal communication is also relational. Impersonal is something where I think that you don't have that selfishness in it. So I think you guys are right. Jai Baba.
One of those rare moments that where the teacher acknowledges and gives credit to the group. Thank you, Kama. But I agree with what Sanjay ji and Ashish are saying, and I think we all agree that so impersonal is where it's an unnamed expression, or I mean, the target of the love is more generalized and not a person. So, like
There,
Sanjay ji said, yeah, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina.
there is
Yeah,
another there's another example here. What are impersonal relationship examples? This is the type of relationship you have with someone who is not a personal friend. For example, your bank manager or doctor. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. So I think the degrees of love also kind of elevate you as a soul on your journey. So initially is the family. So you love them because you are trading something with them. You get that um, comfort in that this is my wife, this is my she's going to do this, and then you love her. Then the other one is obligatory love for your office. You know that this is going to give me money, so you will love your work whether you love it or. And subsequent, and all these things, all these shades of love fill some parts of your heart. But when you are full, and when you have that feeling for everyone around you, and then it graduates you to even a higher level where the whole heart is filled with love irrespective of the object, and that is divine love.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, but okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So we
even
can
the
continue.
even in the highest type of human love, even
So
the
the
highest.
subsection is in divine love, the lover becomes one with the beloved.
Yes, even the highest type of human love is subject to the limitations of the individual nature, which persists till the seventh plane of involution of consciousness. Divine love arises after the disappearance of the individual mind and is free from the trammels of the individual nature. In human love, the duality of the lover and the beloved persists, but in divine love, the lover and the beloved become one. Wah. At this stage, the aspirant has stepped out of the domain of duality and becomes one with God. For divine love is God, and the lover and beloved are one. That is the end and the beginning. It is for love that the whole universe sprang into existence, and it is for the sake of love that it is kept going. God descends into the realm of illusion because the apparent duality of the beloved and the lover is eventually contributory to his conscious enjoyment of his own divinity. Subhead is universe sprang into existence for love. The development
Just read that line again, the one that starts with God descends. It's so beautiful.
God descends into the realm of illusion because the apparent duality of the beloved and the lover is eventually contributory to his conscious enjoyment of his own divinity.
So
Yes,
anyone asks you Leela, what is Leela? Leela is nothing but the driven by the contribution of his conscious enjoyment of his own divinity. He needs to descend and make this apparent duality vanish. Apparent duality of lover and the beloved. It's so beautiful. This line is amazing. Yeah.
mwah. The development of love is conditioned and sustained by the tension of duality. God has to suffer apparent differentiation into a multiplicity of souls in order to carry on the game
Oops,
of.
sorry.
I'm getting epileptic attacks. God has to suffer apparent differentiation into a multiplicity of souls in order to carry on the game of love. They are his own forms, and in relation to them, he at once assumes the role of the divine lover and the divine beloved. As the beloved, he is the real and the ultimate object of their appreciation. As the divine lover, he is the real and ultimate savior, drawing them back to himself. Thus, through the word of duality is only an illusion. That illusion has come into being for a significant purpose.
So
Love is
though the whole world of duality is an illusion, that illusion has come into being for a specific purpose, and the only significant purpose is that of discovery of, I mean, the union of lover and the beloved. Beautiful,
oh,
beautiful
right.
para.
Love is the reflection of God's unity in the world of duality. It constitutes the entire significance of creation. If love were excluded from life, all the souls in the world would assume complete externality to each other, and the only possible relations and contacts in such a loveless world would be superficial and mechanical. This is AI for you. It is because of love that the contacts and relations between individual souls become significant. It is love that gives meaning and value to all the happenings in the world of duality. But while love gives meaning to the world of duality, it is at the same time a standing challenge to duality. As love gathers strength, it generates creative restlessness and becomes the main driving power of that spiritual dynamic which ultimately succeeds in restoring to consciousness the original unity of being.
Beautiful. Now let me just mark out these things. These are just beautiful lines.
I wonder how did he say these words and how did these people know how to put it in writing, Was this before he stopped writing the discourses? Before he stopped gesturing, speaking, or what? At what point were these
Uh,
discourses?
These were these were after he stopped writing. I think most of them, right? And they were either gestures transcribed and confirmed by him before release in the journals, the Meher Baba journal and the Awakener, and then put together for discourses much later. Yeah.
It's so beautiful. So even if
Jai
we have to,
Baba, yeah,
yes,
basically all the discourses, 70 chapters, all of them come from the 1938 to 1942 Meher Baba journal, where everybody contributed and one essay discourse was contributed Baba. So it has been definitely approved by him, edited by him. I think Professor Deshmukh was one of the editors. Apart from that, I just want to make two more suggestions here. I think you should read the essay Lover and the Beloved from Everything and Nothing, which is the first essay, because that complements this particular chapter. And the second one is actually you do this first under the chapter Reincarnation and Karma, part 7, the last two paragraphs, because here he talks about multiplicity of souls. So I think if you read those two paragraphs from Reincarnation and Karma, part 7, where he talks about the greatest detective story ever told, that will kind of complement this these two paragraphs also. So, Jai Baba.
yeah, Baba.
I was
Uh,
also
So
listening to I was also listening to one of the Urich's talk in Mandalay Hall talks that Baba, whenever Baba had a mood, he would call Urich and ask him to write notes. And Urich doesn't know what he was noting down, but whatever Baba said, he was noting down. And those are like a points. And that was given to Deshmukh. And he wrote it, and he would come back and read it, and then Baba would correct, make changes, and all those things. That was for the Meher Baba journal. Yeah, as it was stated. Yeah, that's how he was. Even God Speaks also, Irich was telling. He didn't tell anybody. He all of a sudden he said, "Okay, come on, note, make some notes," and Urich would go and make notes of it. Later on, he came to know all these parts, whatever he collected, came into the book of God Speaks. And one other interesting thing is, 9th chapter authorship was given the 10 states of God to the Urich.
8th chapter.
And
8th part. I think it's the 8th.
Yeah, is it 9th, isn't it? Ninth
I
part.
thought it was 8th. Okay, go ahead. Anyway, I know what you're talking about. Continue.
Yeah. And Urich for a long time doesn't know, because he never opened God Speaks and read it after he finished writing the God Speaks. And later on, who was the guy who used to live in Mehrabad? I know him very well. He was from Chicago. He died last time I was in India, in Florida. You know, he used to play basketball. Oh my God, if he play basketball, if you are not up to his
Gary?
mark, you would trash. Huh?
Was it Gary? Was
Who
it
is it?
Gary? Gary?
Was it Gary?
Gary.
Gary
What's his last name?
Kleiner. That was his
Gary
name. Gary
Kleiner,
Kleiner.
exactly.
Now he got it.
Thank you, Moho. Yeah, Gary Kleiner was the one who used to be assisting Urich. He was the one who showed the book to Urich and told him Baba gave him the authorship. After how many years after Baba passed away, Eric Kleiner came, I think after 75 or around 80, I think. After 80, I don't remember exactly. Yeah. I thought that was very interesting.
Jai Baba, if someone else wants to read.
Yeah. I was also going to suggest that we rotate. Any volunteers who wants to read? So what we are doing is, like we saw in the references, we're going to read these two things for sure. Everything and Nothing, or the one page on Lover and the Beloved. It's very appropriate. And then we'll go to part 7, last 2 paras, which I suspect is the same as this, but we'll go find out. So anybody who wants to read Lover and the Beloved?
I can read.
Yeah, this I can read.
Okay.
Ravi, you go ahead.
Ravi, go ahead.
Well, I can volunteer. Who else wants to read? Let's have a boxing fight and see who will win.
Oh, that Kama is there. You can box in the end.
Oh yeah, Kama. I always fight with Kama. Anyway,
Yeah.
this time I will excuse him out of my compassion for Kama. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. The lover and the beloved. God is love, and love must love. And to love, there must be a beloved. But since God is existence infinite and eternal, there is no one for him to love but himself. And in order to love himself, he must imagine himself as the beloved, whom he, as the lover, imagines he loves. Beloved and lover implies separation. And separation creates longing. And longing causes search. And the wider and the more intense the search, the greater the separation, and the more terrible the longing. When the longing is most intense, separation is complete. And the purpose of separation, which was that love might experience itself as lover and beloved, is fulfilled and union follows. And when union is attained, the lover knows that he himself was all along the beloved whom he loved and desired union with, and that all the impossible situations that he overcame were obstacles which he himself had placed in the path to himself. To attain union is so impossibly difficult because it is impossible to become what you already are. Union is nothing other than knowledge of oneself as the only one.
What a beautiful
Beautiful, beautiful.
chapter. Yeah. I mean, all of these lines are literally worthy of reading again and again and again. Yeah. So let's go to the other reference.
You know, there is not a single nonsense word, right? Every word carries a weight. Every sentence is complete. Every paragraph is complete. And every chapter is every article is complete. How is it possible for a normal person to write with such authority? And he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. There's so much of
Absolutely.
knowledge. You know, all the Vedanta, what I feel is the enormous knowledge is there in Vedanta. It's all there in this discourses. Very, very beautiful.
Kama, you're just too good, man. You that was already recorded. So
Well, I just want to add one more thing because for myself, I've compiled a list. I told you the 7 awakenings, the list, the how to love God, my wish, the 3 prayers, the 3 Hafiz sayings, 7 realities, 7 Sahwa sayings, and 12 ways of realizing me. I read that every day and try to connect it with my practical life where I screwed up. And the other 3 essays I read is Lover and the Beloved, Bhakti Yoga, Purposelessness in Infinite Existence, Jnana Yoga, and Forgive and Forget, Karma Yoga. All 3 are in the Everything and Nothing. And they all jumped out to me at various stages. You won't believe it. I think it was Baba's grace, So for me, that is my checklist for how to love Baba, Jai Baba.
You know, Kama, I just want to add something for you. I've been reading one discourse chapter every day. You know, I read discourses number of times, but mostly along in the groups, But individually, with all these years of reading together with many people, now I started reading again individually, slowly, each chapter. I came up to the point of enjoying so thoroughly. There's so much of information to gain from this collectively as well as individually. And every time I read, I find something new in this. Last night I was reading The Avenues of Understanding. It is such a beautiful, beautiful chapter. There's so much of knowledge. I decided to read 3-4 days, just that chapter a day, same chapter for a few days. Please read it, and there's a beautiful information. There's so much to grasp in that one chapter. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. So Sanjay ji, now you can read those 2 paras if you're okay. We are reading Analogy of Drama and Game of Hide and Seek. This is the chapter Reincarnation and Karma, part 7. And this is the last 2 paras of that. Why we are reading? It's related to
What is the page number on the physical book?
359. Sorry, 338, please.
338. Okay. I'll just reach there. I have the book in front of me. Yeah. 338. Analogy of drama. Yeah. The drama of the continued life of the individual soul has many acts. From the standpoint of view of the worldly existence of the soul, a curtain may be said to be drawn over its life after the closing of each act. But no act yields its real significance if it is regarded as complete in itself. It has to be viewed from its wider context as being a link between the acts already performed and the acts still to come. Its meaning is intertwined with the theme of the whole drama of which it is a part. The end of the act is not the end of the progressive theme. The actors disappear from the stage of earth only to reappear again in new capacities and new contexts. Game of hide and seek. The actors are so engrossed in their respective roles that they treat them as the be all and end all of all existence. For the major part of their continued lives, running into innumerable incarnations, they are unconscious of the closely guarded truth that the author of the drama, in his imaginative production, himself became all the actors and played the game of hide and seek in order to come into full and conscious possession of his own creative infinity. Infinity has to go through the illusion of finitehood to know itself as infinity, and the author has to play the parts of all of the actors to know himself as the author of this greatest detective story, worked out through the cycles of creation. Wow. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Respectfully, Kama, I think it's the second para that's more relevant to the love topic that we are on than the first. The first is more a confirmation of the or rather the logic and right context for understanding reincarnation, not about love. The last one is spot on, is my comment. Okay, so let's get to the next and last chapter, God as infinite love, in the topic of so the subsections on this are: essence of God is love, the phases of manifest love, love as lust, love in the gross sphere. In lust, infinity asserts itself directly. Stages of love: love in the subtle sphere, love as longing, love in the mental sphere, love as resignation. Divine love is infinite, and then divine romance to end the chapter. So, by the way, another question for all of you. Don't you think, looking at the subtopics in this part, do you think we should read this before we come to the chapter that we just read? I would think that would be better. So again, here there are the stages, and there is a bit of overlap because there is a coverage of what is divine love. But I think reading this and then coming to the chapter we read would be a better way. And I'll put it out here so that the next time we read, we can follow that process. Anyway, who wants to read now?
I can read.
Sure. One sec. Fine. Just give me 1 second. Okay. God as
God
infinite.
as infinite love. Essence of God is love. Those who try to understand God through the intellect alone arrive at some cold and dry concept that misses the very essence of the nature of God. It is true that God is infinite knowledge, infinite existence, infinite power, and infinite bliss. But God is not understood in his essence until he is also understood as infinite love. In the beyond state from which the entire universe springs and into which it ultimately merges, God is eternally infinite love. It is only when God's love is viewed in the limited context of forms, in the bracket, which arise in the in- interim period between the appearance of the illusory universe of duality and its merging. That is, infinity seems to have been impaired. Phases of manifest love. When God's love experiences itself in and through the manifested form of the universe, it goes through the following phases. First, experiencing itself as extremely limited. Second, experiencing itself as becoming less and less limited and becoming more and more like infinite love. And third, experiencing itself to be what it really is, infinite and essence and existence. The experience of limitation in love arises due to the ignorance caused by sanskaras, which are the byproducts of the evolution of consciousness. And the process of love becoming infinite is characterized by the shading of these limiting sanskaras. As love latent,
It's
love is
the
love as
topic.
lust. Yeah, love as lust. As love latent in the universe goes through the early, almost unconscious stages of the various kingdoms, it gradually makes its appearance as lust in the animal kingdom. Its appearance in human consciousness is initially also in the form of lust. Lust is the most limited form of love in human consciousness. In spite of the clear reference lust has to other persons, it is indistinguishable from undiluted selfishness because all the objects lust clings to are desired for the sake of and from the viewpoint of the limited and separate self. At the same time, it is the form of love because it has in it some kind of appreciation for others. Through this appreciation is the completely vitiated by thick ignorance about the true self. Love in gross sphere. When human consciousness is completely caught up in the duality of the gross sphere of existence, love cannot express itself as anything other than lust of some type. One may like curry because it tickles one's palate. There are no higher considerations, so it is a form of lust. It is only craving for the sensations of taste. Mind also has cravings for the bodily sensations of sights, smell, sound, and touch, and it nourishes its crude ego life through the excitement derived from these sensations. Lust of every type is an entanglement with the gross forms, independent of the spirit behind them. It is an expression of mere attachment to sensual objects. Since in all forms of lust, the heart remains unfed and unexpressed. It becomes perpetual vacuum and is in the state of unending suffering and non-fulfillment. Love that expresses itself as undiluted or 100% lust is in state of extreme limitation because it is helplessly caught up in a ceaseless craving. When the heart is in the clutches of lust, the spirit remains, as it were, in a state of delusion or stupor. Its functioning is severely uh, curtailed and perverted by the limiting ignorance it is subject to. Its higher potentialities are denied expression and fulfillment, and this halting and suppression of the life of the spirit entails a state of utter bondage.
Utter bondage, yeah.
Bondage, yeah. In lust, infinity asserts itself indirectly. Lust is the most limited form of love, functioning under thraldom of ignorance. The unambiguous stamp of insufficiency that lust is invariably bears in itself a sign that is that it is an incomplete and inadequate expression of something deeper that in vast and unlimited. Through the manifold and unending sufferings that are attendant upon undiluted lust and the continued experience of the frustration it brings, the spirit of ceaselessly registering its
The spirit is
yeah,
ceaselessly.
the spirit is ceaselessly registering its unyielding protest against the utter superficially of a life of unqualified lust. In this manner, the irrepressible voice of the infinite infinity of God's love indirectly asserts the imperative claims of its unexpressed but unimpaired reality.
Very
Stages of love.
interesting. No, hold on. Yeah. So it's a very interesting thing. So Baba says infinity is actually asserting itself through love, but it is indirect. So it's very, very interesting. So where you will not associate lust is a lower form of love, but in it also infinity is asserting itself, and it's asserting itself indirectly, right? So interesting thought. Any comments? Any other questions? Any thoughts? Okay, let's continue. Stages of love.
Stages of love. Even in the lowest lustful life of the gross sphere, God is experiencing himself as a lover, but it is the state of lover who is completely ignorant about the true nature of himself or of God the beloved. It is the state of lover who is inexorably separated from the divine beloved by an opaque certain of understood duality. It is nevertheless the beginning of long process by which the lover breaks through the enveloping curtain of ignorance and comes into his own truth as unbounded and unhampered love. But in order to get initiated into infinite love, the lover has to go through two other stages that are characteristic of the subtle and mental spheres.
So the point that's being made here, gross is the lust, gross sphere, you're having lust, then you're going into the subtle and mental spheres, and the love takes on different flavors there, right? So love in the subtle sphere. Please continue.
Yeah. Love in subtle sphere. The lover in the subtle sphere is not free from lust, but lust he experiences is not undiluted as in the gross sphere. The intensity of lust is the subtle sphere is about half that in the gross sphere. Besides, there is no gross expression of lust as in the gross sphere. The lover in the gross sphere is inextricably entangled with gross objects, hence, lust finds gross expression. However, the lover in the subtle sphere has gotten free from attachment to gross objects, hence, in this case, lust remains unexpressed in its gross form. This lust has subtle expression, but it cannot have gross expressions. Moreover, moreover, since about half of the original lust of the gross sphere gets sublimated in the subtle sphere, the lover in the subtle sphere experiences love not as undiluted lust, but in a higher form as longing to be united with the beloved.
So what is this love? So what is the object of this love? Is it already big B beloved that you're loving in the subtle sphere? What do you think? So obviously there are no gross objects, so that it's not as it is in the gross sphere. But so what is the nature of love, or uh, what is love in the subtle sphere? Anyone?
I think this is the beginning of pure love, because now you have finished with the five physical senses: touch, taste, sound, smell, sight, which is a form of excuse me, which is a form of lust. For example, um, touch and taste are what you call as coarser desires because of gluttony and you know lust for sexual this thing. Whereas sound, smell, sight are called as finer desires, but they are still a form of lust because they apply to the physical senses. Then on the mental side, you have basically the domain of mind with thoughts and domain of mind with feelings. That is also a form of lust, but of a very lower degree, which you will come in the mental when you talk about the mental sphere. So my understanding is that the subtle sphere, which we know is between the first and fourth, which is where the planes of involution are, the aspirant is now experiencing pure love for the beloved. So this is the beginning of that relationship, pure love to the divine beloved. Jai Baba.
Okay. So in this phase, he already has at least started on the path. He recognizes the true nature of his own existence, but he's starting to recognize the divine beloved. But obviously there is separateness in all of that. Yeah, just rephrase
Correct.
or
So
yeah.
basically, yeah. So here he is now not distracted anymore by gross impressions,
Correct.
because that has to do with the gross senses, the five physical senses: touch, taste, sound, smell, sight. So now his path is much more easier. But of course, like we know, up till the fourth plane, it's going to be dicey. But this is the beginning of the what we the next paragraph you will hear about the longing for the beloved, the possessive longing for union with the beloved, which is actually what we call as, in the form of obedience. Here he tries to be obedient to the beloved's, whatever the beloved wants him to do. And then when you come to the mental sphere, that is where you have surrender, where you are not even interested in longing for union. You are complete surrender there. So anyway, we'll come to that later. Jai Baba.
Yeah, Baba. Let's continue.
Love as longing. In the gross sphere, then love expresses itself as lust, and in the subtle sphere, it expresses itself as a longing. Lust is craving for sensations and as such is completely selfish in motive. It has utter disregard for the well-being of the worldly beloved. In longing, there is a less selfishness, and through it continues to be possessive in a way. The object of love is recognized as having infinite worth and importance. Longing is a less limited form of love than lust. In longing, the curtain of duality has become more transparent and less obstructive, since the lover now consciously seeks to overcome duality between the lover and the beloved of yearning for his presence. In lust, the emphasis is solely on the limited self, and the worldly beloved is completely subsidiary to the gross needs of the self. In longing, the emphasis is equally distributed on the self and the divine beloved, and the lover realizes that he exists for the beloved just in the same way as beloved exists for him. love
So if I
in men-
pause you for a minute, this is the exact answer I was looking for. So the answer is in the next paragraph. So what is the difference between love in the gross sphere, and how does it express itself in the subtle sphere? It's clearly is described in this paragraph. So it's basically longing, and the emphasis is equally distributed between the self and the divine beloved, because by now the lover already realizes that he exists for the beloved and the beloved exists for him. So that's in the subtle sphere. Now let's go to love in the mental sphere. Continue, sorry.
love in mental sphere. The lover in the mental sphere has an even higher and free expression of love. In this case, though lust has not completely disappeared, it is mostly sublimated. Only about one-fourth of the original lust of the gross sphere remains, but it remains in a latent form without any expression. In the mental sphere, lust does not have even subtle expression. The lover in the mental sphere is detached from subtle objects, and he is free from possessive longing for the object of love, which is characteristic of the lover in the subtle sphere.
So
Love is
love as
resignation.
resignation.
Love as a resignation. In the mental sphere, love expresses itself as a completely resignation to the will of God, the beloved. All selfish desire, including longing for the presence of the beloved, has disappeared, as now the emphasis is solely on the work and will of beloved and to be united with him. Selfishness is utterly wiped out, and there is a far more abundant release of love in its pure form. However, even in the mental sphere, love has not become infinite, since there is still present the thin curtain of duality that separates the lover from the beloved. Love is no longer in the clutches of selfishness, but it is still short of being infinite because it is experienced through the medium of finite mind, just as in the lower spheres, it is experienced through the medium of the lower bodies.
So just a academic observation. One of the rare uses of the word finite mind. Otherwise, finite mind is used by Baba a lot in infinite intelligence. Otherwise, you don't see finite mind that much in discourses. So here there's an example of that. Love is no longer in the clutches of selfishness, but it is still short of being infinite because it is experienced through the medium of the finite mind, just as in the lower spheres, it is experienced through the medium of the lower bodies. Let's continue.
Divine love is infinite. Love becomes consciously infinite is being as well as in expression when the individual mind is transcendent. Such love is rightly called divine because it is characteristic of the God state in which all duality is finally overcome. In divine love, lust has completely disappeared. It does not exist even in latent form. Divine love is unlimited and essence and expression because it is experienced by the soul to the soul itself. In the gross, subtle, and mental spheres, the love is conscious of being separated from God, the beloved. But when all these spheres are transcendent, the lover is conscious of his unity with the beloved. Lover loses himself in the being of the beloved and knows that he is one with the beloved. Divine love is entirely free from thraldom of desires or the limiting self. In this state of infinite, the lover has no being apart from the beloved. He is the beloved himself. Divine romance. One thus has God as infinite love, first limiting himself in the form of creation and then recovering his infinite through the different stages of creation. All the stages of God experience of being a finite lover ultimately culminate in his experiencing himself as the soul beloved. The sovereign of the soul is a thrilling divine romance in which the lover, who is who in the beginning is conscious of nothing but emptiness, frustration, and superficiality, and the gnawing chains of bondage gradually attains an increasingly fuller and free expression of love. And ultimately, the lover disappears and merges in the divine beloved to realize the unity of the lover and the beloved in the supreme, the eternal fact of God as infinite love.
Super.
Karthik, I have a comment to make. A few
Please.
comments.
Please.
Can you roll it up at where it Baba points to the finite mind? I lost the train of my thought. I was going.
Right here.
Where is it again?
Right here.
But it is still short of being infinite because it is experience of without finite mind just as First there's it. Yes. So I think when Baba explains the love in mental plane, as much as we might think that it's that people in mental plane, their advanced soul and so forth, but there are still limitations. And it is very, like you said, it's very important to notice that still the medium is a finite mind, right? But he's no longer entangles with the lower bodies because those sensations and attachment to five senses and all that is gone by the time he get to the mental plane. So it all has to do with our consciousness. Where is our consciousness? The more that our consciousness grows and advanced, obviously we are able to love the beloved the way he should be loved. And of course, if now I remember what we read last week, the concept of the pure love and divine love. So when the involution of consciousness happens, and when the grace of master falls on the aspirant to give him or her love, that's the only way. Baba says that's the only way that pure love gets created in the aspirant. And as the level of desires and attachment and so forth goes away and gets more and more dissipated, limited, he can be closer and closer and so forth. So until the seventh plane, which he can actually gain the divine love of being one with God. Another a very fine point was here that we read earlier, and that is even the longing, Baba said, even the if I'm paraphrasing, don't remember the exactly, but it was interesting that he said even the longing for the beloved still has an element of selfishness, but the less selfishness. Because when we say, oh, I want to love Baba, I want to love you, I want to love God, and so forth, we still, why do we say that? I say, well, Baba, who am I? Mahu, the false self. I want it for my own sake, right? So there is that selfishness is there. So it's a degrees. It gets lesser and lesser, but again, Erich used to say the only thing that you can ask Baba, don't ask anything, but the only thing that you can ask him is love. It's contrary to what Baba says here. That's all. That's my comments.
Sure. I think, thank you.
Jai Baba, just to supplement what you have just read, there's another essay which I've read earlier. This also comes from Everything and Nothing, which kind of summarizes this chapter, where we were talking about love, longing, surrender, and then union. In another way, I use an acronym LOSS. First comes love, more than love is obedience, more than obedience is surrender, more than surrender is sacrifice. So initially there is love in the gross world. And then probably in the subtle world, as we have seen here in the subtle sphere, we have longing. But then in the mental sphere, you have to have surrender. So the essay Gifts of Love goes like this. Greater than love is obedience. Greater than obedience is surrender. Love is a gift from God to man. Obedience is a gift from master to man. Surrender is a gift from man to master. Love seeks union with the beloved. Obedience seeks the pleasure of the beloved. Surrender seeks nothing. One who loves is the lover of the beloved. One who obeys is the beloved of the beloved. One who surrenders has no existence other than the beloved. One who loves desires the will of the beloved. One who obeys does the will of the beloved. One who surrenders knows nothing but the will of the beloved. All three arise out of and remain contained in the ocean of divine love. Jai Baba.
I don't see will. You kept saying will. Is there a new edition problem here? The last two paras.
Well, yeah, desires the will of the beloved because you're not supposed to.
No.
What
Are
is
you
the question?
seeing the screen? Are you reading from your physical book?
Oh, no. Actually, I have to make a mention. I just rearranged the paragraphs for my own this thing. So I'm reading
I'm
from
going
my
to punch
own.
you.
That was a quiz. That was a quiz to see whether somebody is reading or not. Like, because I like the flow that I have written here because it helps me to memorize that. That's it. Love is a gift, and then love seeks union. Then one who loves, and then one who loves. The will of the beloved.
I'm like the way it's flowing. It's obviously you're not making a mistake in reading, but I'm like, what the hell's going on? Okay.
Right.
Anyway,
Thanks,
beautiful chapter. I mean, beautiful cross reference. Yes. Great. I have one question before we wrap up. So Baba says longing is subtle, plain expression of love. I mean, lust in the second plane. I mean, subtle plane. He uses the word resignation for mental plane. Now, obviously, in the earlier intervention, Kama used the word surrender and obedience. No problem. But why do you think he's using the word resignation?
Resignation and surrender are the same thing.
Absolutely the same thing, or is there a reason?
No,
That's all I'm
they're
saying.
not complete.
They
No,
are
they're
two. They are
not.
two
They're not
different
the
things.
same. They're two
They are not the
different
same.
things. The way
Resignation
that
is different
Baba
from
Okay,
surrender.
one at a time.
explains
One at a
surrender,
time.
yeah.
Yeah,
Go
Mahu and
ahead,
then maybe
Ravi. Go
Ravi.
Okay,
ahead.
the question is not about words. The question out here is that what do you do in the fifth or sixth plane? In the fifth plane, the domain of mind dealing with thoughts and the domain of mind dealing with feelings in the sixth plane, where the aspirant is able to see the divine beloved. Okay, in the fifth plane, alternatively, in the sixth plane, all the time. But there is a duality there, where the object of desire, the divine beloved, is separate from the subject, that is the aspirant, the lover. So that is very clear out here. So in the mental plane, it is a form of surrender, resignation to the will. That is, you're not even asking for love. You're not asking for liberation or mukti. You're just surrendered to the pure love because you're already experiencing that pure love in the fifth and sixth plane. So there is no need to you ask for union. So it's a form of surrender. So I think the word resignation is just a semantic word in this particular paragraph, as far as I am concerned.
Karti, can you please, I don't know how difficult it could be because we can't really play with Baba's words. Can you show that code now? I'm actually a bit curious to see in what context Baba used and what exactly that word says.
Resignation?
If you don't mind. Yeah, like
Yeah,
your question.
Yeah. Here it is. So in the mental sphere, love expresses itself as complete resignation to the will of God, the beloved. All selfish desire, including longing for the presence of the beloved, has disappeared, as now the emphasis is solely on the worth and will of the beloved and to be united with him. Selfishness is utterly wiped out, and there is a far more abundant release of love in its pure form. However, even in the mental sphere, love has not become infinite, since there is still present the thin curtain of duality that separates the lover from the beloved. Love is no longer in the clutches of selfishness, but but the more interest, the comment I had was only on the use of the word. So I don't want to go into reading the whole thing, but the comment on the use of the word resignation and how to contrast that with surrender and obedience. Broadly, I agree exactly with what Kama said, right? But specifically, why is the word resignation used? Ravi, you were going to say something.
No, no. I'll just go ahead. Just go ahead. Discuss whatever it is. I had different
Okay.
thought, but no, it doesn't matter.
You're resigning to consensus. Okay.
But the sixth plane person, they see God everywhere. There's the only beloved. Only thought that exists there is, I see God. That's all there is to it. Only sight is left. And all the other animal sanskaras are there. It is given in God Speaks, but they don't have any effect on that mental plane, people in the mental plane. That is the state. So resignation to the will of the God. Surrender is more for us people. That's what I'm thinking. I may be wrong. Just my own thoughts here. Surrender, love, obedient surrender is more for the gross people, not for the people in the involution. That's what I'm thinking. Jay Baba.
Something to continue
Karthik,
thinking
just-
about. Yeah,
I
Madhu.
think it's I
Go ahead,
think it's the
Kama.
ambiguity of the English language, frankly. And second thing is that what Ravi was saying about gross plane and the involution planes, that surrender is more for. But I think that there's another in the supplement. Baba has talked about that the chasm between the first plane and the seventh plane, and between the sixth plane and the seventh plane, both are equally infinite, because all these planes are anyway part of the illusion. So it doesn't matter, it's just a process out here that we are talking about, that you are, even here in the gross plane, when you're going through misfortunes, when you're going through challenges in life, what do? One is you keep getting angry at the divine beloved and saying, why is this happening to me? Why are you doing this to me? Or you resign to the will, as we seen in my wish. So for me, surrender and resignation are the same thing. Jai Baba.
I would say similar, Kama. Similar,
Karthik,
but not
I
the
make a
same.
comment.
Similar. Sorry.
It could
Yeah.
be or it could not. I have a feeling that it's a little bit different, because look at the title. Baba says love as resignation. He doesn't say love as surrenderance or surrendering. Okay. It seems that, there's that, well, it's all your fault, Karthik. You brought this up now. We begin to talk about it. But
No.
no,
Please
of
go ahead.
course, I'm joking. It's good that you actually pay attention and you recognize this word. That's really good. But the way that Baba talks about the surrender, I read this, little quote from Baba. It says, "You can only obey me spontaneously as I want when you completely surrender yourself to me, so that my wish becomes your law and my love sustains your being. So when I read this, it seems that the surrender is the last stage where you completely become, you're very close to the beloved because you're surrendering yourself completely to him. Whereas resignation, it could be interpreted as you are resigning your, from your selfish desires, from longing for, like he says here, presence of the beloved, that. So it's a stage by stage by stage. For me, surrendering is the highest stage of consciousness. There is no more I, me, you, mine exist there. It's all one. And perhaps we need to do the resignation in the beginning, little by little by little, to be able to completely surrender to his will. That's my little understanding, but I may be wrong.
Absolutely. Thanks for that comment. But if those of you who find the time continue to research this, and then we'll see if Baba uses resignation elsewhere. Last but not the least, I know we are way out of time, but I'll just leave this thought with you guys. So if you see these two chapters, the two chapters that we read today, there is quite a bit of overlap, right? Conceptually. Now that overlap is could be driven by the fact that they were two different essays, different and written at different times in the journal. But I think to a reader, it is dissonance, right? It is dissonance because the progression and stages of love are handled in two different topics. Just some food for thought for all of us as to how Baba has created this. To you quote from Reincarnation and Karma Part 7, this is just a great detective story. So you have to piece together why Baba has done this in one chapter in one way and in another chapter in another way, right? So keep thinking, keep enjoying, and keep Baba in your thoughts all the time. And let's move through the planes. Yeah. On that note, we'll
Jai
wrap.
Baba,
Yeah.
Jai Baba, just one note because of this topic you just mentioned. I can tell you that from my understanding, it's a micro and a macro aspect. So the chapter on love is more like a macro aspect of looking at love from a bigger picture, everything dealing with ego and all those things. And when you come to the God as infinite love chapter, he's going into the micro aspects, like you're going through the material body, where you're going through the gross sphere, subtle sphere, and the mental sphere, where you need to use your gross body, subtle body, and mental body. And what happens to the love? How does it experience itself when you're in these different spheres of existence? So they are basically complementary to each other. I don't think, we need to kind of, but I think other people will have other opinions. Okay, Bob.
Fair enough. I will listen to both of these readings again and tell you if I still think there is overlap. And I will keep in mind your micro macro. So you're saying this is macro, that is micro.
And Karthik, resignation has been used, but in a different context is be resigned to my will. So in that sense,
Yes,
it is
correct. Absolutely. Correct. Absolutely.
not a
Thanks.
new word. Only thing is
It's not a new word, yes. So resigned is a lot more negative or not less positive than surrender. This all is my
no.
semantic understanding. Not
I think
not
both are positive. Both are
okay.
positive for me.
Okay.
Be resigned to my will cannot be a negative term. It's a way of saying surrender to my will. So
Exactly. Arguably, yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know we've been very we've gone way out of time, so I will stop recording. We can still hang out if you guys are free. Tar Meher Baba ki jai.